Alright guys, hi again, this is Truman Hudson from the York College VITA program, and for today's session I'm going to be getting into a couple of the forms inside of our simulator program. Um, so before I jump into it, just want to remind you guys that before you open up any return, you want to use your 6-digit ID number as the 6X's that you will see in the book. Alright, and with that being said, again, only Internet Explorer as the browser. And now what I will do is, you guys should recognize this page. This is the main page of the simulator program, and I'm going to start a new return now. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to type in 021 and I'll just paste in my 6-digit ID code just to ensure that I don't mistype anything. Alright, and then I will go to tax forms. Okay, remember, no interview mode, tax forms, guys. Alright, so this is the main information sheet, and just something to note is that everyone should have a copy of the publication 4012. That is the blue book with the different color tabs on the pages. You guys can also use this book to follow through with some of the things that I'll be showing you today. The yellow tabs actually shows you how to use each form and what each line on the forms mean, while the blue tabs shows you how to actually add in and do some of the technical stuff program wise, but the yellow tabs is pretty much just for information related to the pages. Now, this page that I'm on is the main information sheet. That is pretty much where you'll be entering the bulk of your client's personal information. This can usually be found somewhere between the intake interview sheet and the social security card. One thing to make note of is that the first name and last name that you guys should be using will be the name that you see on the client's social security card, not the name that you see on their intake interview sheet. If you guys turn to the publication 4491W, page 7, on page 7, I'll use this exercise to kind of run through with it today. Rose Hudson, that's the name of our client. You'll notice that on her intake interview sheet, which is on page 7. However, we'll be using the name that is on her social security card, which is also Rose Hudson. You will have situations where your client may put a middle initial on the intake interview sheet, but when you take a look at their social security card, you notice that there is no middle initial. What this pretty much means is that you won't be entering in a middle initial on the main information sheet right here, because again, you want it to match exactly with what is on the social security card. For convenience, it's better to use all caps at all times. It makes it a lot easier to read the information that you're putting in case you want to look over things, because sometimes when you have all lowercase letters, they tend to overlap and it's a little bit harder to read and notice mistakes. So I recommend using all caps, and I will get started. I'm going to type in her name, Rose, no middle initial, Hudson. And also, you guys want to periodically save your return, because this is a simulator program and it does not automatically update itself. So if you want it to update, you will hit save return, and you should notice that the red line is gone from here. When you see a red line, it pretty much means that information here is missing or it is required. Now, there won't be every case where the red line will apply to you, but in most cases, there should be information that you can put there. Otherwise, you can always override it, but that will not be in our session today. So now I'm going to move down to present home address. Again, name line 2 here at the top does not apply for the present home address. Whenever you want to put in your client's mailing address, you're going to go down to line 2, where you see that red line, and you're going to put it where it says present home address. Alright, name line 2 applies to something else, which we won't be getting into today. So for right here, I'm going to type in her address, which you can also find on the intake interview sheet, page 7. So that's 730 Benjamin Street. Alright. And for the zip code, you're going to be entering in your personal zip code, because again, this is just a fictional return, so there's no need for factual information. So once you guys put it in, you should notice that it updated your city and state like it did mine right here, Jamaica, NY. Alright. So now I'm going to move down to birth date. Again, this is on the intake interview sheet, page 7. And if you guys want to also follow through using the publication 4012, you can find the main information screen on page 17 of the yellow tabs. That's right below where it says starting tax-wise. Alright, so I'm going to jump into it. Type in her date of birth. That's 04 416 1988. And once you guys get that in, you hit save return. And you should notice that the age for federal tax purposes will be automatically calculated. Whenever you see a green line within the program, it pretty much means that your that the information on that line will be automatically calculated based on information from elsewhere. You notice that we put a birth date here and then it transfers the age here. So that's pretty much what the green lines mean. The black lines, again, you enter it at your own discretion. You won't always be in need to enter any information on every black line you see. However, you want to always double check to make sure that you don't overlook anything. I noticed that I had passed this part right here where it says telephone numbers. One thing to make note of is that you always want to make sure to get multiple contact information for all your clients. That way we can contact them in the case of any problems that we may notice after the client leaves. Alright? So where it says phone number, you will notice that in the book it says 704 555 and 4 X's. Again, you can replace these X's with random numbers. Okay, going down to occupation, student. All this information can be found in the intake interview sheet. So you always want to double check it, overlook it. Right? Going down to this section right here, taxpayer information. Now, this part is especially important. You want to make sure to always keenly ask your client, whether this part applies to them or not. This section right here where it asks, are you excluding Puerto Rico income? This will never apply to any of our volunteers, so you can always leave this as no. However, I want you guys to pay attention to this next section right here where it says check if blind. Now, this pretty much means that the person has to be legally blind, declared legally blind by the state/doctor for them to qualify for this. If not, they do not. Where you may have a situation where your client may have an eye problem, which is only temporary. It could be pink eye, cataracts, whatever the situation may be. This does not qualify them as legally blind, so they would not qualify for this. The same applies to totally and permanently disabled. If your client is on crutches, in a cast, again, these aren't permanent situations, so they would not qualify as totally and permanently disabled. So that's just one thing I want you guys to make note of. The presidential election campaign, this is optional. Every client can choose to or choose not to contribute to this. Alright, this next section right here, filing status and exemptions. I won't be getting into the details as far as the qualifications of each of these, but these are pretty much the 5 statuses that any one client can qualify for. For the client that I'm doing today, Rose Hudson, she is single, and one thing to do is that you guys want to always check before you do any of your problems. You always want to check the interview notes for all of them, because it'll pretty much give you a clear idea of the situation of all of these practice clients that you're going to be doing even before you start the actual return. Alright, this client is single as indicated in the interview notes, which you guys can read right before you get into it. This next section right here again is especially important, where it says check if you can be claimed on another person's return. That pretty much means that if your client that you're dealing with is in a situation where they do not pay over 50% of their own expenses and somebody else also does that for them, whether it be a guardian, a parent, or family member, this automatically puts them in a position to be claimed by this person. Even if there's a situation where they tell you they will not be claimed, you still want to check this box, because in a situation where somebody is not paying over 50% of their own expenses, then they do not qualify as somebody who is independent. Alright, so again, from reading the interview notes, we know that her parents provided all of her support. So what I will do is I will check this box. Alright, I'm checking the box. And then I'm going to take a look at this. Filing status 2, she is filing status 1, so these do not apply to her. Dependents / non-dependents. This is pretty much for clients who will be claiming dependents on their return. Now, the client that we're doing today will not be claiming anybody. However, you want to make sure that you always find out from your clients if they are claiming anybody. If they are, do they have the social security number? If it is a returning client, they do not need it. But if they are a first time client, then they do need to have the social security card of the dependent. Again, because you want the names to match exactly with what is on the social security card. You guys may notice that there's only 4 slots here for the dependents. However, you may have a case where you have more than one dependent. I mean, or more than 4. You could have 5, 6, whatever the case may be. And in a situation like that, how do you actually how do you get more lines on your page? Well, this can be found in the 4012 publication 4012 again. If you guys go to page 19, where again in the yellow tab it actually has a section where it tells you if there are more than 4 dependents, and it gives you the instructions to add in more. Okay, so you guys want to also make note of that. Date of birth, you want to get that in. Social security number, again, social security card. If not, returning client. Relationship to you, it gives you a list of options right here. It could be your son, daughter, parent, foster child, etc., etc. Again, you want to make sure you get that right. Months in home, you want to indicate how many months the dependent live with the client. If it's a situation where it's a full-time student at a private college or public college and they're boarding, they still do qualify as months in home as long as someone else is still providing all the support for them. Code, it's going to give you a list of options. It could be your child who lives with you, child who does not live with you, due to divorce/separation, etc., etc. This next section over here where it says DC, EIC, CTC, these are the different credits that each of your dependents can qualify for. DC stands for dependency care, EIC stands for earned income credit, and CTC is child tax credit. I'm not going to be getting into details as far as what the qualifications for these are, but just a sort of like a short run through is that DC, your client's dependent has to be at least age 12, well, at most age 12, so age 12 and under, and the person could have paid somebody, to take care of it, would be a babysitter, a daycare, whatever the case may be, and they want to claim back some of this money. That's what this box here is for, so you can check it in those situations. EIC, I won't be getting into the details for this one because it has a lot of requirements. And child tax credit, you notice that it's a green line because it pretty much qualifies any dependent that is ages 17 and under automatically, so you won't have to check this box yourself. Alright, scrolling down a little bit more, you notice that right here it says state information. Because we're only doing federal in our program, we won't be touching this at all. One thing to always remember is that the simulator program only does federal. We will be getting into some state practice problems once we head over to the actual program, but that's not going to be until the second software session. This next session where it says type of return, generally we do e-filing at our site, but there will be cases where your client may request paper, or you may realize that their only option is paper. Again, you want to check each of these based on the situation. Select your bank. This is pretty much for anybody that's going to be doing direct deposit, direct withdrawal, and they may have any of these banks or other, but we're not going to be dealing with that today because our client does not have any bank account information. This next section where it says Audit Shield, Fee Collect, and Western Union Reloadable, at our site we are not allowed to do any of these here, so this will never apply to any of our volunteers, so you guys can always overlook it. Don't even check no, just leave it blank. And then we're going to move down where it says bank account information right here. Notice it says routing transit number and account number. This is pretty much for anybody that wants either direct deposit or direct withdrawal. Now if your client is a new client and it's their first time you doing this, you want to get a void check from them. You don't want a situation where they're telling you the number off the top of your head, because you don't want them to make a mistake. Somebody else gets the money, they're still going to be coming back to us, wondering where their money is. And we can't tell them, hey, you made a mistake. So again, void check if it's not a returning client. Alright, self-select and practitioner's pin. This section right here does not apply to any of our volunteers. So everywhere between here down to here, you guys can completely ignore. This section right here would ask you for a taxpayer's PIN. Enter 5 numbers. The 5 numbers will be your client's zip code. So whatever your client's 5-digit zip code is, you guys are going to enter it right here. You're going to put the date here of the date you're doing the return, and you're going to remember to click I authorize. But because this is just a paper return or a fictional return, we're not going to be entering in any of these information because this only applies if we will be e-filing the return. Alright, so that is pretty much it for the main information page. I hope you guys found this helpful, and thank you guys for watching.